So let's start. We have to cover a lot. You're here to see what's new in CSS. Before we dive into that, just a little bit about me. My name is Sebastian Zartner. I work for Webedia Gaming GmbH. I am a contributor for Firefox, formerly for Firebug. Who knows about Firebug in this round? Oh, a lot. Okay. So yeah, and lately I got invited expert for the CSS working group, and that's why I'm here today to show you what's new. Yeah, a little trivia about me. The first time at CFCamp was 10 years ago. I will go to that page. Let's see if it works. Just that you can see it. Let's see if it's loading, because it's loading from Web Archive, because the site is not up anymore. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Let's let it load. Yeah, and I'm a proud father of a little daughter. And yeah, you can contact me here. Here you can see the site. That was the CFCamp site 10 years ago. So yeah, and my talk at that time was about Firebug. So yeah. Before we get to the new features in CSS, I wanted to talk a little bit about the CSS working group. That is yeah, the party behind the CSS standardization. That is part of the W3C, so the World Wide Web Consortium. And yeah, as I mentioned, they are here to develop the CSS standards. The CSS standards are now separate into different modules. You will see that later. And just to let you know, everyone can get involved into that just by discussing the things on GitHub. And yeah, if you have anything that bothers you about CSS, or have a feature request, you're struggling with something in CSS, and think there is something you could improve in the language, then head out to the website. And by the way, this presentation will be online later. So everything that is orange here is linked, and then you can go to those links. Yeah, and how does the CSS working group work? The issues on GitHub are discussed in that group, and there are resolutions on what will be changed in the standards. So now let's dive in. And there are a lot of features. So yeah, first the big ones, container queries. Who of you already knows about container queries? Oh, that is quite a lot. So with container queries, you're able to style elements based on their container element. Before we had the media queries, where you could query the viewport sizes. And with container queries, you can query the size of the container, which makes it much more flexible. By the way, I don't have live examples here. I always have links below to blog posts that are going into much more detail about all the things. I just want to give a quick overview of the features. So if you want to dive into more detail, just head over to those websites, and they are explaining that a lot more. So yeah, container queries. That means if the size of the container changes, you can style your element differently. And below, I always have the versions when the feature was released in the browsers. And with the container queries come the container length units, like for the viewport units, there are quite a few of them. So you can also have flexible sizes based on the container sizes. What's brand new is an addition to the container queries, which are style queries, which have landed in the Blink, so Chromium browsers, that allow you to query different styles. Currently just custom properties, like in this case theme, and based on that you can change the styles within. The has pseudo class. There was a request like for 15 years or 20 years to allow styling a parent element based on something below, a child element and so on. And that is now available in browsers through the has pseudo class. I already put in an advanced example. So the has pseudo class is not just the parent selector I just described, but much more. In this example, we are saying that an element message, with a message class, is normally not displayed, and when the UL doesn't have any items in it, the message will be displayed. I hope that's understandable. So and all browsers are already supporting it. Firefox is currently implementing it. So will be available soon there too. Cascade layers. With cascade layers, we have different layers of specificity that allow you to have, how many people know about specificity in CSS? I think just, okay, 1, 2. Specificity means how specific a selector is. So like the A selector is not as specific as AnyLink, for example, or this attribute selector is more specific than A. And with cascade layers, you have the possibility to separate your rules into different specificity layers. That means that if they have the same specificity, so for example, the A is in the layer defaults and also in the layer utilities, then the one in the layer utilities trumps the one of layer defaults. So that means you don't have to write that long selectors anymore. Nesting, also brand new in browsers. How many people are familiar with preprocessors like SAS, LESS, and so on? Oh, a lot. And with CSS nesting comes native nesting in browsers. So the syntax is very familiar, I guess. There are some caveats regarding the native nesting, but basically it works like in SAS. And the same here, the Chromium browsers and WebKit, so Safari, already have implemented it. Firefox will release it in 116 or 17. Subgrid. Probably many of you are already familiar with grid layout. Subgrid is an extension to that. That means you can have grids within grids, and these grids within can get aligned with the parent grid. That is a bit hard to see in this example, so I will just head over to this website because that is explaining it quite well. Let's see. Here we have a simple example, let's say in CodePen. So what you see here is all these elements are within a grid. And by the way, the dev tools in Firefox and Chrome and Safari all support displaying the grids. So let me see here, sorry. So here we have a big grid over all these items, all these cards. And with subgrid, you can align the different cards, the different items, so that, for example, the headlines are aligned with each other. Because if I turn off subgrid, let's see if I can find it. Here, subgrid. Come on. And that was the wrong one, great. It doesn't matter. The thing is that without that, the headlines and the images wouldn't be aligned. Like this image would be up here. So let's switch back to here. So yeah, that is great for aligning things in nested DOM. Ad support selector. With the new head selector, for example, we want to test if a browser actually supports that selector, and you can do that with the selector function within the ad supports rule. The ad supports rule is already there for quite a long time, but it got extended through different functions like the selector function. And yeah, so you can test before you apply different rules. So that means just if a browser supports has, you can apply that rule. Also, there are two other functions, font format and font tag. Font format allows you to test for the format of a font, like WOF2 in this example, but it can be TTF or anything. And font tag allows you to test for different features supported in browsers, like font palettes we will see later. Yeah. Let's head over that. Aspect ratio. Also a very handy thing. With the aspect ratio, you can basically say, I want to have an aspect ratio on my element. You just define either the width or the height, and define the other one as auto. And with the aspect ratio, it always fits that aspect ratio. And yeah, now there are the smaller things in here, and there will be a lot. Conic gradient and repeating conic gradient. That allows you to define gradients that are circling around a center. Let's have a quick look. Here, like this one. So, very nice. Is and where selectors. With the is and where selector, you can basically shrink your selectors into one, because that would mean article H1, article H2, article H3, and so on. And you can basically combine them into one selector. The difference between is and where is the specificity. I don't remember which one is which one, but I think is not having any specificity, and where is having specificity. Check it out. I have the links below. Extended not, just a quick thing. Not is already available for a very long time, but now you can even have complex selectors within the not, which was not possible before, like article or anything, any other selector you can imagine is now allowed within not. Scale, rotate, and translate. Before we just had the transform property and had different functions like scale, rotate, translate, and skew and whatnot. And there are now specific separate properties which allow you to do that without the transform property, which makes it in many cases a little bit easier to handle, because you can define them separately and don't have to define them within that transform property. Also a very cool feature, the add property rule. With that rule, you can define or make your custom properties more specific and give them some semantic meaning. How many people of you are using custom properties? Quite a few, okay. And with the add property rule, you can define what is what I'm defining, because normally you just have custom properties. You can throw in any value into a custom property, and with the add property rule, you can define: is that a color? Is that a string? Is that a length? Or what is it? And you can also give it an initial value. That means when I use it here, it gets this initial value. And you can also define if it inherits or not, like the font size, for example. So very handy thing. And also with this, you can animate gradients, for example, which was not possible before. The range syntax, also a cool feature. I guess you all know the add media checks with min height, min width, and so on, which got now a lot easier to work with, because you can now use mathematical syntax and just define, okay, style my things when the width is between 400 pixels and 1000 pixels. And you can also define, okay, up to 1000, but greater than 400 pixels, which was not as easy before. We also have a whole lot of new viewport units, actually I think 20 or so, which are basically targeting mobile resolutions. On your phone, the UI of the browser pops up when you scroll up and down, and it's changing the viewport size. And before you didn't have any way to interact with that change of viewport size. And with these new units, you have a way to check the large, small, and dynamic ones. Large means the whole viewport or the whole browser size. Small is when the UI of the browser is shown, and dynamic means it changes based on whether it's shown or not. New color functions and spaces. In desktop applications like Photoshop and so on, you had different color spaces for a very, very long time. And in CSS, you just had sRGB, which is a very limited color space. And yeah, they now opened up to much more color spaces. And the syntax is changed a little bit. You can define a color space through the color function, for example. Or you can use other new functions like LCH or OKLab and so on. And yeah, they let you define colors that are way outside the color space of sRGB. Color mix, also a nice function, which allows you to mix two colors. You can say, okay, I have white and I have 10% of that color in sRGB, as I said, and you can define other color spaces. And yeah, you get a new color. Relative color syntax. Just landed in Safari. With that, you are basically able to mix any color with everything and manipulate colors like in SAS. I don't know if you know the SAS manipulation functions for colors that will now be integrated into the browsers. That means you can write here from, and then you define your color. In this case, it's a dark blue. And because we're using the RGB function, we define, okay, RG and B, the values, but the B will be divided by half. So it will be a bit darker, the blue. And here I'm using the LCH, also using the same color, and I'm saying I'm rotating the hue by 180, which means, yeah, it's the contrast color for the color. So yeah, the syntax is a little bit off, but it is very flexible, and you can basically do everything with that. So you can desaturate a color or add transparency to it, and so on and so on. New media features, there are a lot of them. I think these are not even all of them. Yeah, I will go quickly over them. Prefers color scheme. You can check if a user wants a light or dark theme. If a user prefers more contrast or less contrast, you can check whether the user wants to have reduced motion, because some users have motion sickness, for example. So you can reduce your motion on the websites. You can even react to when users want to have less data over the wire. So you can also react to that. For example, yeah, provide smaller images and so on. You can check if a monitor is a high dynamic range monitor or not. You can check with the update whether the display allows quick updating, like a laptop, for example, or slow updating, like on an e-reader, or not updating at all, which would be a printer, for example. Yeah, and force colors for people that need higher contrasts. You can check also where the force color is active. And as I said, there are a few more. The modal pseudo class allows you to check whether an element is displayed in a modal state. like, for example, a dialogue. But there are a few others which can be made modal, and then you can apply different styles based on that. Focus visible and focus within. The focus visible pseudo class is basically replacing the normal focus pseudo class, which you probably all know, which specifies it a bit deeper, saying that the focus is actually visible, because before it didn't have to be visible to the user if you just use the focus pseudo class. So with focus visible, you know, okay, the browser would display the focus ring. And focus within means you can style an element like the field set here in this example. If any element within it has a focus, like for example a select box or input. So you can style a field set based on that. User valid, user invalid. You can style inputs based on whether the user interacted with the element and the element has an invalid value based on what you're validating. So we also had valid and invalid, but they also apply without user interaction. So this is the difference here. So the user at least has to type something into it or select a value and not just tap through it. Placeholder shown, yeah. That basically is displayed when the placeholder within an input is shown. And you can style the placeholder. I don't have that, but you can style it with the placeholder pseudo element. And yeah, you can check for that. Autofill, you can style inputs based on whether the user used a value that was provided by the browser, for example, account information you have saved within your browser, and you just select it from the drop-down. You can style elements differently based on that, whether they use it that way or wrote their input by themselves. The file selector button, you can now style the selector button of an input, also a file input element. And yeah, you have different ways to style them. Backdrop filter. Backdrop filter is important when you have a dialog, for example, a dialog element. By the way, how many people of you know about the dialog element? Well, there are a few. Okay. So in HTML, there is a dialog element which you can open via JavaScript, and you can style that element. And the dialog element, when it's opened modally, you can have a backdrop filter, which is basically filtering everything that is behind it. So in this case, I'm saying I'm blurring everything that is behind it, so that the focus, the visible focus, is on the dialog element. The linear function. The linear function is used for timing, and with that you can make much more customized animations. I will go much more quickly over the other things, because the main things were already shown, and the other ones are little smaller things. So yeah, overflow clip basically works like overflow hidden, but with overflow hidden, you still had the way to programmatically scroll an element. With clip, you can't do that. Appearance, basically already implemented in browsers for many years, but with the WebKit prefix, now without prefix, you can basically say that an input element or any form element has no appearance, and then you can style it your way. Text decoration thickness and underline offset allow you to style, as the name already says, the thickness of the underline or overline or what you have, and the underline offset says, where to place the underline. Target text targets the text, as it says. That is actually the anchor text you have in your URL. So when you have that, you can target that text and highlight it. View transitions, also a bigger thing. View transitions, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can quickly show you that. Sorry, I need to go to Chrome for that. And see that. I'll just show it quickly to you. With view transitions, you can basically transition between two elements and animate the thing between and style it. And it looks like this. And this is without any JavaScript. So that's view transitions. This is currently just working for single page applications, but there is also already an experimental implementation for multi-page applications. Typed object model is a better way to use CSS or change CSS values within JavaScript, because before you had style dot padding, and you had to define 42 pixels as a string, and now with the typed object model you can separate the string from the unit or the value from the unit, I have to say, which makes it much more flexible and allows for better changing. Accent color allows you to give form elements a specific color, like for example here sea green, and everything will be sea green. Color scheme lets you define that the whole page should be dark or light. Content visibility is something that allows you to say whether the content within an element is visible or not. Touch action is for different devices, touch devices, I mean, and you can define what interactions are possible with a touch device. Clip path, basically you can draw a path for clipping. I'm sorry, I'm going over these quickly because you see the bar down there, that there is still a lot. So if you want to see anything, come to me afterwards. Scroll bar styling, you can style the scroll bars and also say scroll bar gutter stable, which means that the scroll bar should always be shown. You can now have color fonts. There's a new standard that allows you to have colored fonts, and you can even define the color palette for the different fonts, which I have here. Very cool feature. You have different math functions and trigonometric functions like tan, like sinus, cosinus, and so on. Here, more math functions. Here, square roots, absolute, round, and whatnot. You have all the different math functions now available within CSS. Scroll behavior is when you're programmatically scrolling or via an anchor tag. I mean, an anchor within a URL. It says smooth scroll, small. Now I can't speak. I mean, whether the scroll behavior is smooth or discrete. Overscroll behavior basically means when you're scrolling within an element, whether you're at the end of an element, it should scroll the whole viewport or not. Scroll margin and padding is when you have also an anchor within a URL, and with scroll margin and padding you can say, give me a little bit space. Maybe you have a fixed header on your page, and with that you can easily say, I want to have that space available, and everything is pulled down a bit. Margin trim is for the margins of a block or inline, and defines how to treat them, because normally you have a margin that goes beyond the parent element, and with that you can control it and say it should just be within that element. Text wrap balance is for headlines specifically, that allows you to balance out the words within a headline so that they have basically the same length when you have like 2 or 3 lines. Font-related units, there are a lot of them. I won't go over them. In the nth child and the nth child last selectors, you now have a way to define a specific selector. So you just select specific elements instead of all the elements within a parent element. You have a way to style elements, whether they are in picture-in-picture mode, which is now also possible in HTML and JavaScript. Same goes for full screen. You can specify how to style elements when they are in full screen mode, like I'm right now. Hyphenate limit characters is defining the minimum number of characters word should still have when it's hyphenated. Scroll snap stop says when you're scrolling whether it should always stop even when you're still scrolling or not. The normal behavior is not. There is a way to highlight elements and give them different styles that is defined through JavaScript first, and you set an highlight, and then you can style them using the highlight pseudo element. And yeah, these were not all of the features, but I will now shortly talk about upcoming features. So if you want to see what else is there, I recommend you check out the websites of the browser vendors. I have the links there. Scroll-driven animations, very cool thing is you can bind your animations to the position within your scroll container. So when you're scrolling an element, you can animate another element. Anchor positioning, also something Google is currently working on. Basically, you can align an element to another element, like a tooltip, for example, which should be displayed around an element. And you can, which I don't show here, even define fallbacks, so meaning if the element would be outside of the viewport, you could position it differently. Yeah, very cool feature. Add scope allows you to scope different rules, and I have a syntax error here. Scope different rules to a subtree of the DOM. Basically, you're saying everything inside my card element or all the styles within there are targeted. And you can just limit the styles within there, so the P outside of card elements won't be affected by that. View transitions for multi-page applications I already mentioned. Starting style is when an element is added dynamically to the DOM, you can give it an initial style, and that is basically for transitioning the styles in there. Masonry layout is like I already wrote here, like the Pinterest layout is like grid layout, but the elements can be like a brick layout. Color spaces for gradients, I already said there are different new color spaces in there, and for gradients you can say in LCH, make that gradient. Soon there will be a contrast color, so you give one color and a list of other colors, and the browser is choosing the one which is fitting or having the best contrast. Toggle allows you to toggle between different values, and the semicolons are not a syntax error. These are actually written like that. And the last three are the ones I am working on, because I said I'm an invited expert. I'm working on the CSS backgrounds 4 specification. The new features there are the longhand properties for the box shadow property. For now, you just have to define the whole thing, and soon you will be able to define the different elements in there. There will be a stripes function, which for borders allows you to define different colors for the borders. And there are also different longhands for the border radius properties, like border top radius. So you're defining the ready for the left top and right top radius in one thing. And these were all. Here are the sources. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just quickly show you those sources. Also the links, the specifications, roadmap. There's an FAQ. There are even mistakes the CSS working group is admitting they made in the past, but now they can change it without breaking websites. And there is also an interop for 2023, because all browser vendors agreed on a specific set of features of CSS, which they want to integrate in 2023. And with that said, a little request. Yesterday, there was a survey released for the state of CSS 2023. I would like every one of you to go there, fill out the form, and give them feedback, because that feedback will actually drive the browser implementers and tell them what should be prioritized. So if you have any needs, go to that website. They are having the survey, fill out the form. And with that said, thank you.